The detour is giving us direction. My idea of things is that everything that happens in our life is preparing us for something more, preparing us for something better. So there are no obstacles, there are no boundaries, there's nothing that is preventing us from moving forward unless we choose to stand still. The detours in life are just giving us an alternate route, giving us an option for something else so that we're not just stuck standing at the roadblock. So think about if we were driving to a destination and there was a roadblock. Well, we wouldn't choose to sit and stop at the roadblock forever, waiting for it to clear up. I mean, imagine ourselves sitting in traffic waiting for a roadblock to clear that might not ever clear that day or that week, that year. So instead of getting stuck at the roadblock, we would do everything possible to find a way around it quickly, because we know that the longer we stay stuck at the roadblock, the longer that it would take us to ultimately reach the destination that we had in mind in the first place. And especially in life, the destination is the dream or the vision or the goal. And so many people find themselves defeated in the pursuit of their dream. And it's allowing one thing doesn't go right. Something doesn't fall into place exactly as we want. And that allows us to feel discouraged. And it creeps in feelings of doubt, doubting our ability, doubting our power. But my suggestion is that there's always an alternate route, that it's not a roadblock, it's a detour. And in the same way the detour is just giving us an alternate route, granted, it might take twice as long to get to where we want to go, but certainly there's something in us that believes we're eventually going to arrive. So if we can eliminate the focus on the roadblock and allow us to at least give ourselves an alternate route, an option to get to the same destination, knowing it might take a little longer. Time is an arbitrary concept. We create the time messes with our mind. Maybe it's not serving us to focus on how long it's going to take, but knowing that if we continually make progress, we're going to get there. We'll arrive. And the option of the alternate route also reminds us that nothing is permanent in the physical space, that everything is temporary, that everything that happens in our space, the good things and the bad, are temporary. But what stays with us is the emotional space that we create in that temporary situation. So allowing ourselves to feel like, at least emotionally, there's always possibility, there's always opportunity, that we're not stuck in the space of the roadblock. We have the option, to move forward and to find something that's going to give us an alternate route that brings us back to exactly where we wanted to be in the first place. So confrontational, catastrophic circumstances in life are a lot like those roadblocks. We could get stuck focusing on the circumstance as an obstacle. Or we have the option to shift our perception of the roadblock, of the obstacle, to turn it into an opportunity. Everything is really an opportunity for growth anyway. We just have to recognize it as that, tap into it, and use it as the opportunity it is meant to be in our lives. There are circumstances that, are particularly difficult. And those circumstances are testing our ability to find an alternate route. I think it really is that simple, that spending less time focusing on the obstacle, more time creating opportunities that give us the ability to break through the roadblock and forge a new path. That the detour offers us a path of least resistance. It's offering us an alternative. It's just up to us to take advantage of that alternative so that the alternate route can get us to the destination that we were meant to be in. We all know people who choose to dwell on traumatic circumstances in the past. They drag the trauma into the present moment space. Imagine dragging a roadblock with you along your alternate route. We'd never get anywhere. If we're holding on to the roadblock, if we dwell on it, it's hard to move past it. It's hard to create something else, something better, because we're holding on to the bad. We're holding on to that negative, heavy energy. Imagine days, weeks, months, years spent focused on the roadblock. And that's preventing us from gaining access to everything else in our life. You know, it's funny. I remember falling off my bicycle when I was like 7 years old. I remember pressing the front wheel brakes and literally flipping over the handlebars. I fell flat on my face, got a big gash on my chin completely opened, pain, blood, trauma. I mean, it needed stitches. It was a serious gash. And in fact, I still have the physical scar here on my chin. So I'm always reminded about that injury. And, you know, I could relive the trauma of flying over the handlebars and falling flat on my face. And in fact, I do remember there were several months where I never did get back on a bicycle. In fact, I started skateboarding, which is really funny because everyone knows that skateboarding is really no more safe than riding a bicycle, probably less safe, significantly less safe than riding a bicycle. You know, I wasn't doing any jumps or flips or turns. It wasn't an impressive skateboarding career I had. It was just a temporary distraction from that moment where I fell and flew off the handlebars. So this is the irony, is that, you know, I realized that the time I spent not riding the bicycle, working into a space where I could feel confident again to get on the bicycle, that, you know, that kind of trauma, that kind of pain, it exists in the moment. But I don't want to drag it with me and carry it with me into every moment. Let's just leave it isolated in the one moment and then just keep moving through life, knowing that there's better options, there's more alternatives, there's access to other things once we let go of that old trauma. So, you know, eventually I got back on the bike, but I was much more careful. I was aware that pressing on the front brakes was not the best way to slow down, at least not quickly, fast, and knowing that I could safely get on the bike if I was more aware of how I use the brake, right? So I learned something. I got back on the bike, I was more careful. So now that I'm in my 40s, when I ride a bike, I'm particularly mindful about how I apply the brakes because I remember what happened to me when I was 7 years old. And it's just funny because this comes up for me because I go lead yoga retreats to Aspen, Colorado in the summer. We go whitewater rafting and mountain biking. And, you know, in my 40s, the idea of falling off a bike is a lot more fear-based than it would be as a child because, you know, in our 40s, things break and bruise much easier than they did when we were children. So when I'm getting on the bike to do this long mountain biking trip, I, you know, inevitably am mindful of how I use the brakes because, you know, flying over the handlebars at 40 is not an option, just not an option. And the fear of falling certainly exists. You know, it doesn't go away, but it's not paralyzing me and preventing me from getting back on the bicycle. And really what it did was make me more mindful, a more mindful rider, so that now when I am on the mountain biking portion of the yoga retreat, I feel comfortable enough to enjoy the beauty of the scenery around me without being paralyzed by the fear of falling. And I think about the lessons that we learn in every circumstance in life, in every relationship, how we carry the lessons that we've learned from the past into the present. And, you know, especially when something is really traumatic or catastrophic, you know, certainly there might have been a lot of pain, blood and tears shed. But we don't want to carry that pain with us forever, dragging that pain around with us into every aspect of our lives, into every interaction, every circumstance, every relationship, every uncomfortable situation. We don't want to just hold on to the pain or the potential or possibility that something really bad is going to happen. The worst possible thing we could do, I think, is carry that fear, that pain into the unknown. Because the unknown is where the possibilities for our life exist. We want to approach the unknown with enthusiasm about the possibilities, not worry or apprehension about what might harm us. That's no way to go into the unknown. And really everything from this moment forward is the unknown. So we want to create, a sincere space of enthusiasm about the unknown so that we can take advantage of it, make the most of it, and do everything in this life that we know we're destined to do. We're prepared for it. And I feel like when we let go of the trauma and pain of the past and convert that pain into a lesson learned, then we're more prepared to move forward in life from this moment forward. And I notice a lot, especially with relationships, the trauma from past relationships can leave people feeling very jaded and bitter. And then we begin a new relationship and we carry that pain from the past into the present moment connection. Now, obviously, everything is a lesson. Everything we experience is teaching us something. And there are people that come into our lives that certainly have less than admirable intentions. And those people might come into our space with the intention of hurting us or being dishonest or, even maliciously harming us. But once we recognize that energy, once we recognize the trait, it allows us to move through life so we're more prepared to recognize the genuine connections. So we see when somebody is authentically and genuinely interested in building a relationship with us, in working with us, so that we don't carry that pain from the past, pain from the other relationships, pain from the other circumstances into what we're creating right now. And I know that a lot of our work is to be able to almost emotionally disconnect from the pain and the hurt so that we can more intelligently enter into a loving space, into a more accepting space with someone who honors our love authentically and unconditionally. To move into a space where the possibilities for our life expand into the infinite because we're not holding on to what was, we're making room for what is and preparing for what will be. I feel so sad when I hear friends talking about painful experiences. And while honoring their pain, my intention is to help guide them to the other side of the pain, to focus on how that painful experience taught them a valuable lesson about their own strength, about how that painful experience really allowed them to focus more on what exactly they wanted. Because once you see the roadblock, once you see the obstacle, your work becomes to navigate around it, right? So maybe simply a detour guiding us into a clearer path of least resistance was all that roadblock was meant to do. And, some of the roadblocks are catastrophic, life-altering. And I get that. But the irony that's infused in something life-altering is it literally is a detour sending us along a path of least resistance. So those things that are most life-altering, life-shifting, most traumatic and catastrophic are often shifting us drastically into another direction. And the way the universe works, the way our life works, is that inevitably, whatever that situation was, is guiding us to where we're meant to be, so that we meet people that need us, so that we step into roles that we're able to serve others better, so that we're able to step up and be more of our authentic self in the moment because of how we dealt with the trauma, how we dealt with the catastrophe, how we navigated around the roadblock and the obstacle to create something more profound, more powerful, something that allows us to serve better, offer a better version of ourselves to the world. So thinking about maybe moments in our lives that feel still to this day feel painful. Thinking about what the lesson was in those circumstances and how we can use the lesson to, create something that's more powerful in determining the course and direction of our lives from this moment forward. Giving us, even if it might even be a new destination, because we've had to alter the course and direction a little bit. But that detour is not preventing us from arriving. It's just forcing us to navigate the road, in a different way. And then, the irony is that wherever we wind up is always more of an emotional space than a physical space. We know how we want to feel. We know who we want to be, at least generally, we know. And then we're able to kind of refine how we get there, refine how we process the things along the way, so that we wind up in a better space, a better energy, a better relationship, better circumstance, so that every circumstance really has the potential to teach us more about who we are, who we want to be, and what we need to believe in order to get there, in order to get to that space. What do we need to believe about our power, our purpose, our energy in order to get there? This is when the detour is actually giving us direction. That these moments are the moments when the time spent feeling that we're validated, that the pain is validated by the progress we make in life despite the roadblock. That the time spent in the pain was worth it because it allowed us to make progress in the direction that we really wanted our life to go. That our ability to focus on the destination, the emotional destination of peace, stability, love, support, contentment, fulfillment, that is enough to guide us along an easier road. So thinking about how the pain might be validated, how the trauma might be validated by our ability to continually make progress, by our ability to persevere. That's where the magic happens, is that even in the midst of the pain, we understand that that process is allowing us to make progress. That's the big deal. Because you have to acknowledge, we all have to acknowledge, it's not a physical space we necessarily want to be in. It is the emotional energy that we think that physical space is going to bring us. It's the emotional energy that the destination is going to create for us, and that we're giving ourselves access to that. So when we allow the detour to give us direction, we never feel stuck at the roadblock. And we always feel the hope that comes when we keep the final destination in mind, so that the detour is just giving us direction. We never feel stuck at the roadblock. And we always feel that there's this hope, this possibility, this opportunity that exists because we keep the final destination in mind. We keep the dream in mind. And we just allow ourselves to shift our perception of whatever is immediately in our space so that we continue to focus on where we want to go. And even if we have to take a little detour to get there, we realize that inevitably we will arrive if we continue to make progress in the direction of our dreams, continue to make progress in the direction we want our lives to go, and understanding that the detour is just offering us an alternate route, and the detour is actually giving us direction. Follow your path with ease and know that everything that comes into our space is helping us, guiding us, teaching us, elevating us, and allowing us to make progress so that we arrive at the destination of our dreams. Blessings, blessings, and blessings. Spoken Word Yoga. Namaste.